The truth is pretty basic here. Markets need competition now. So I want to talk about 5 reasons to be concerned about the decline in competition. First problem is that less competition means less consumer choice. When consumers can purchase similar products from multiple competitors, they force market players to constantly seek out new ways to reduce prices and to increase the quality of goods and services so they can attract more of the business. But when companies consume their rivals instead of competing with them, consumers can get stuck with few or no alternatives. Prices go up, quality suffers. Consider Comcast, the nation's largest cable and internet service provider. Comcast has consolidated its position by buying up rivals. So today, over half of all cable and internet subscribers in America are Comcast customers. And last year was Comcast's best year in a decade. But while big telecom giants have been consuming each other, consumers have just been left out in the cold, facing little or no choice in service providers and paying through the nose for cable and internet services. Over a third of Americans who theoretically have access to high-speed internet don't actually subscribe because the price is just too high. And the data are clear. Americans pay much more for cable and internet than their counterparts in other advanced countries, and in return, we get worse service. The second reason for the decline in competition that it should cause concern is that big guys can lock out smaller guys and newer guys. Take a look at the technology sector, specifically the battle between large platforms and small tech companies. Google, Apple, and Amazon provide platforms that lots of companies depend on for survival. But Google, Apple, and Amazon also, in many cases, compete with those small companies. So that platform can become a tool to snuff out competition. Look at some examples. In 2012, FTC staff concluded that Google was using its dominant search engine to harm its rivals of its Google Plus user review feature. Now, among other things, the staff produced evidence showing that Google promoted its own Google-branded content over its rivals, even though the rivals would otherwise have had top billing through an organic search algorithm. The FTC commissioners ultimately sided against the conclusion of their staff, but the European Commission has moved forward with formal charges on similar allegations, and Europeans may soon enjoy better protections than U.S. customers. Apple has received attention over similar kinds of issues. The latest example is its treatment of rival music streaming companies. Now, while Apple Music is readily accessible on everyone's iPhone, Apple has placed conditions on its rivals that make it difficult for them to offer competing streaming services. The FTC is investigating those issues and deciding whether to sue Apple for antitrust violations. And Amazon has faced similar charges. Last year, groups representing thousands of authors claimed that Amazon uses its position as the dominant bookseller to steer consumers to books published by Amazon to the detriment of other publishers, and that it extracts a larger share of book profits from publishers. And this has another effect. It discourages publishing houses from publishing riskier books or books written by lesser-known authors. There it is. Google, Apple, Amazon have created disruptive technologies that changed the world, and every day they deliver enormous value. They deserve to be highly profitable and highly successful, but the opportunity to compete must remain open for new entrants and smaller competitors who want their chance to change the world. Third problem created by less competition is that when competition declines, small businesses can just be wiped out, and our whole economy suffers from that. Look at what is often referred to as the Walmart effect. Walmart is big and it is powerful. It delivers anywhere from 30 to 50% of the products that Americans consume, and it controls over half of the groceries sold in some major cities. Now, Walmart's gigantic size gives it a competitive advantage over smaller businesses. And often, when Walmart moves into town, small businesses collapse because they can't compete with the price leverage that Walmart has built with its suppliers. Walmart is also notorious for the low wages and poor working conditions it offers. And the Walmart effect has a similar impact on suppliers as well, often forcing them to cut their workers' wages and benefits to keep Walmart's businesses. But think about what that means. Workers who cannot survive on those wages turn to public assistance, including housing, health care, and food stamps. Public assistance that is subsidized by other taxpayers. Walmart workers alone are estimated to collect about $6 billion a year in federal taxpayer subsidies just to survive. That means those low prices that Walmart advertises are paid for in part by high tax subsidies that every other American pays for. And in the meantime, Walmart's investors pocket high profits. The fourth problem that concentrated markets create is a political problem. The larger and more economically powerful these companies get, the more resources they can bring to bear on lobbying government. And lobbying government to do what? To change the rules to benefit exactly the companies that are doing the lobbying. Over time, this means a closed, self-perpetuating, rigged system, a playing field that lavishes favors on the big guys, hammers the small guys, and creates even more market concentration. This is a big one, and it should terrify every conservative who hates government intervention. Competitive markets generate so many benefits on their own that the government's only role in those markets should be simple and structural: prevent cheating, protect taxpayers, maintain competition. Concentrated markets that are dominated by a handful of powerful players, on the other hand, they don't produce those consumer benefits that flow from robust competition. Instead, the benefits get sucked up by a handful of executives and large investors, and their lobbying remains focused on protecting those giant corporations. Government intervention in concentrated markets inevitably becomes more and more complex and technocratic as it attempts to impose complicated regulations in an effort to recreate the benefits of competitive markets. It is costly, it is inefficient, and it plays right into the hands of the big guys because they can afford to throw armies of lawyers at the regulatory process. Small players end up having to shoulder regulatory compliance costs that make it even harder for them to compete, while big players use their resources and their political clout to get carve-outs, loopholes, and rollbacks that favor themselves and make it even harder for new competitors or small competitors to survive. Over time, the result is a trifecta: more intrusive government, more concentration, and less competition. Finally, concentration has contributed to the decline of what was once a strong, robust middle class in this country. As corporations get bigger and bigger and bigger, a handful of managers get richer and richer and richer. And God bless, in America, we celebrate success. But what about everybody else? What about small business owners and community bankers, people who used to be able to hold their own with the big guys, but now find it harder and harder to keep up with the armies of corporate lawyers and lobbyists determined to rig the economy against them? What about the employees at Walmart who scrape by on help from the food pantry and Medicaid, but who never have an opportunity to build any security? What about them? They're just stuck. Concentration is not the only reason for rising economic security, but it sure as heck is one of them. Concentrated industries result in concentrated profits. It is the ultimate price squeeze. When markets are not competitive, big businesses are able to extract monopoly profits by setting prices that are higher and higher. In 2014, the top 500 largest firms pocketed 45% of the global profits of all American businesses. And the vast majority of those profits went to the wealthiest of the wealthy. As of 2013, the wealthiest 1% of Americans held nearly half of all the stock and mutual funds held by all of America. And who gets a shot at their own dream? When big businesses can shut out competition, entrepreneurs and small businesses are denied their shot at building something new and exciting. Left unchecked, concentration will destroy innovation. Left unchecked, concentration will destroy small companies and startups. Left unchecked, concentration will suck the last vestiges of economic security out of our middle class. And left unchecked, concentration will pervert our democracy into one more rigged game.